Hello YouTubers and welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be on handheld radios. Now I've done a few videos before doing comparisons, trying them out on Can I Chase. If you click up at the link up there, I think you should probably just about see one of my older videos. Trying out the Mytech, the Bofang, which is the older version or more basic single band, which is either the 777 or the 888, and an old Quansheng as well, which is a dual band radio. Also, I'm going to be doing the KST, which is a single band UHF radio, one of my favourites. I'll come to that one in a little while. I was watching a video a couple of days ago that Simon put on YouTube, Wosly, stating that he wanted to look at doing or purchasing a radio. In fact, it wasn't YouTube, sorry, it's a Facebook entry, querying about the power. They state, I believe, that they give out between 4 and 5 watts, these Chinese-made handheld radios. And I did a test a while ago when I first had them and found them to pretty much give out the power that they stated they were going to do. And he put a response on, and a lot of people commented and say, well, no, you'd be lucky to get sort of 2 to 3 watts out of them, which I put a comment on, sort of disagreeing with that, because from my experience, I've pretty much had the power stated after doing the tests. So I thought, interesting enough, I'll give it a go and see what I get now. Now, whether I'm reading it wrong, I don't know. I'm sure someone out there will tell me if I am, but I'm going to do some tests now using or trying out these 5 radios, which all should give out 5 watts, I think, on UHF, or was it 4 watts on UHF? Now it's either 4 watts or 5 watts, and VHF on UHF is different. But either way, let's have a look. That's the easiest thing, isn't it? If I take off the battery, they normally stay underneath. Right, so they claim on UHF to give out 5 watts. So we're looking at getting at least 5 watts out of these radios. So the way I'm going to be doing this test is using this, it's a combined power meter and SWAR meter. I'm using a mag mount on the roof of the vehicle. Now I know technically you should always use a dummy load just to make sure you get exactly the right power reading. I haven't got a dummy load for this band. I've got one for 10-11 meters, but not for the 70 meter band. So we're going to do a comparison using the same antenna, so it should give us pretty much a fairly accurate reading. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at the Bofang and see what power that gives out. Okay, so to make life easier, I've already disconnected the antenna from the top. With all these radios, I always use the basic stock antennas with them, and I found them to work fairly well. On some of my other videos, you've probably seen I've used a purchased antenna from one of our local radio shops, which is sort of quite a bit bigger, sort of that big. Can you see that? That big length, as opposed to that length. Works quite well. But anyway, for this, let's get back on topic. Let's see what sort of power we get. So to make it easy, I've taken all the antennas off, and I'm just going to screw this antenna adapter in. This is the Bofang UV5R. Okay. All tuned to the same frequency. Let's take a look at what reading we get out from this. Okay, so I think I'm correct in saying that we're looking at the left-hand scale just here. We're looking at the bottom of the scale, so I've got it on the lower setting. So when I transmit, let's see what we get. Okay, let's turn these other radios down a bit, shall we? So looking at this, we're actually getting almost 3 watts, which isn't the 5 watts that you're supposed to be getting. So UHF just slightly below 3 watts power. Okay, let's take a look at the next radio. So we'll turn this radio off, disconnect it. A bit disappointing, only 3 watts. But if I had a proper tuned in antenna, which I don't think is going to be far out anyway, but if I used a properly tuned in antenna with, perhaps even using a dummy load, it'll probably give a more accurate reading. Which may actually show to be slightly more than 3 watts. So, but it's a comparison. So at the end of the day, regardless of what we're using as the dummy load or the antenna, as long as we use the same for all radios, it will show us which is the most powerful. Okay, so the next one is the Mytech radio. Now this was a more expensive radio. These were from Maplin's Electronics. Again, I paid about £150 I think for 2 of these, which is an awful lot of money considering something like this Bofeng here, which does the same sort of job, not quite as better made or as well made, but the same sort of specification, only sort of like £10 each. So, but you pay for the quality hopefully, and I'd like to think that the Mytech will give me the full 5 watts. Okay, let's take a look at the power from this one. Okay, so let's give this a go. And again, we're looking at just below 3 watts. So potentially the same sort of power as the Bofeng. Now this radio claims to give 5 watts. So that's clearly not quite the case. So I'll disconnect the Mytech. Turn that off and put it aside. And we're going to go for the Bofeng. Now this Bofeng is, when I purchased, it was advertised as the 777, the BF 777. And they do a lot of different variations of this radio. They even call this the Bofeng BF 888. But after looking at various different ones, they all seem to be the same. And I'm sure they use the same software, the same specification when they were built. And even the casing, everything looks identical. So I doubt very much there's any difference between the 777s and the 888s. They both claim to be 16-channel UHF 5-watt outputs. So let's make sure that's on, and we'll give this one a go. Okay, so let's give this one a try. Again, we're looking at a reading of 5 watts. Okay, that's just above 1 watt. That is really poor. Okay. Bit disappointing there, because I had a lot of faith in these, because I've been using these and they work really well. And I'm very surprised that if I'm correct, and that is the needle and the meter readout that we look at, if that's the case. Just over 1. Not good. So let's disconnect and turn off the Bofeng. Out of the way. Right, the KST. Now I've not seen these for sale for a long time now. They're clearly an old radio, but they're single band, UHF, programmable, and the same type of specifications. And I love the size of this. It's a little bit smaller, and it's supposed to have the same power, and it's a lovely clear radio. So I'm hoping this is going to not let me down. Let me just put this into the same frequency as the others, just to make it absolutely fair. Right, okay, let's now have a look at the power for this one. Okay, so again we're looking at 5 watts for this one. Okay, 2.5. So it's a bit of an improvement on the Bofeng, the 777s, 888s. However, not quite as good, perhaps as some of the other radios. So 2.5 there. Okay. Okay, and finally, I'm going to do a test using the Quansheng radio. Now this is one of the first radios I bought, possibly 5, 6 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. I'm not sure on the make, or the model number at least, I'm sorry. But it's a dual band. I like this radio. It's very tough, it's very durable. You hold it and it feels like you're holding a good quality Yaesu. It feels very sturdy. There's no creaks from this at all. The only issue I have with this, it's a right bugger to try and program. Software wise, if you use Chirp or the software that comes with this radio, it's great, no problems. But unfortunately, to try to change even things like the power on the keypad through the menu on here, it's an absolute nightmare. And for that, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you want to be keeping it fixed on certain frequencies and just using the menu, then it's absolutely great. With the VFOs, you've got dual VFO on this one, and you can have the like a memory feature programmed on the top with all your repeaters programmed in. And on the second VFO, it doesn't have to be the same. You can still have the frequencies programmed in. So it makes a lot of sense. There's aspects of this radio that are a lot better. but unfortunately it's a right pain. I guess if you use this every day, it'd be different. You'd get soon learn how to use it, and you get used to it very quickly. But other than that, it doesn't get used very often now for me, unfortunately. What's taken over for me now are the Bofengs, the UV5Rs and the 5R Pluses. They're the ones that I tend to use. Right. Let's get this one wired up and see what power this one gives out. Okay, so we're using the same frequency again. We're using VHF, and when I transmit, it's giving 2.5 watts. That's not very good at all. 2.5 watts there. Okay. Okay, so that's quite interesting, really. I'll be honest, I'm very surprised with that. I generally believe that when I did a test on these radios before, they were a lot more accurate and giving me the power as stated they're supposed to. I think a lot of it does come down to the fact that I'm not using a dummy load, and the aerial I'm using is probably not tuned in quite as well as it could be. But even if we're reading it wrong, and even if it's causing a problem with the antenna not being tuned in properly, we were using the same conditions for every radio, and as you can see, there is a slight discrepancy with all of these radios, and they're all on the same frequency. So at the end of the day, it would still show us which one's giving out more power, even if I'm actually looking at the wrong part of the meter. So there you go. That's just something to think about. But yeah, the Bofeng, one of my favourite radios. Maybe I need to look at that. Maybe it's not quite as good as I thought it was. I have done tests and I have used these radios, and they do seem to pretty much work quite similarly, in fact. So it's not all that noticeable when you're out in the field when you're using these radios. I've had very good reports on the Bofeng on the amateur radio bands. And it's worked well for me. So that's quite an interesting one. Anyway, let me know what you think below, and I'll catch you on my next video. Thanks for watching.